Hello, Duluth Church. I hope you're doing well wherever you are at this time. We're having a wonderful Tuesday evening here. I just had a wonderful conversation with the pastors and Elder Mick, and we just wanted to share with you and be open with what is going on currently, because as you know, we're living in very interesting times. Pandemics, protests. It's if there was ever a time that the Lord could come soon, may it be now. And I think it's exciting to see that on the one hand, obviously it's scary and difficult times. On the other hand, the birth pangs are getting closer and closer. And so we know the Lord is coming soon, and that is exciting. But we want to inform you, and we want to talk about what is happening at Duluth Church. And so on Sabbath, we had an elders meeting to discuss the situation, to discuss the pandemic, and to continue asking the question, when are we going to come back? And so we wanted to be prudent, and we want to be wise, and I thought we had a really good discussion. Elder Mick, could you share a little bit about kind of what we talked about and some of the conclusions we came to?
Yeah, hello everybody. We're in some really terrible times right now. We have a double whammy going on. We have the injustice that we've been hearing about and seeing on a daily basis, and we have COVID-19, which is a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic, and I think sometimes we forget about that. And I understand too that despite that, there are people willing to sacrifice their health because they feel that they need to for justice. But I want to just bring us back to the pandemic and just show you some figures or stats about where we are in this state of Georgia. You know what's going on in the country. But let me just show you this website from the Georgia Department of Public Health. This is specific to Georgia. So let me just show you some numbers just to kind of give you an idea of how Georgia is doing. Now, I looked at this at about 7 o'clock this morning, and this morning, the confirmed cases were only 58,000, and the deaths were 2.4. Now, you see, we've had almost 100 deaths just from reported just this morning. Now, in terms of the cases, that's gone up because some can say more people are being tested. What I'm really looking at are the number of deaths, the number of hospitalizations, and the number of ICU admissions. Now, here in the state of Georgia, in terms of counties, we're looking, really paying attention to where we're seeing the highest cases. Now, if you look at all the counties here, there are four counties that have the highest cases. You see DeKalb County, there's Fulton, there's Cobb, and here's Gwinnett. And wouldn't you know it, that Gwinnett has the highest number of cases of COVID-19. There is another county, or there's another group of people that have indicated that they've had positive infections, but they haven't been distributed amongst the counties. So it's really curious to see exactly where they fall here. But I just want to kind of give you a visual on in terms of what we're doing and why we're erring on the side of caution as opposed to rushing right back into worshiping together. We are still in a pandemic, and infection is still there. And just real quickly, I want to tell you that there are three issues that we're dealing with infection. There's asymptomatic, that's people who have no symptoms. There's pre-symptomatic, people who have very minor symptoms. And then there's symptomatic. You can have COVID-19, you can be infected and have no symptoms at all, but for 3 days, you're the most infectious. That's the most infectious time period, and you can infect other people. So I just want to just kind of make sure that we're aware of what's going on in terms of the pandemic. We're still in it. We want to bring everybody back together, but we're erring on the side of caution for all of our health.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Elder Mick, because people may ask, well, hey, the church over here is open, or the church up in Tennessee, I know that one's open, or church down south, that one's open. Well, yeah, but if you look at that chart, the cases in their county is probably significant. Well, we know anywhere but Gwinnett is going to be lower than where we are. We are at the highest level. So that's a big reason why. Add to it the size of our church, add to it the at-risk populations we have. And we want to err on the side of caution for everybody's benefit. And so, Pastor Enrique, if you could kind of just share a little bit with our Spanish members as well, what we've just been talking about.
Claro, saludos hermanos todos, bendiciones. Deseamos que estén bien en esta temporada tan especial, tan singular que nos ha tocado vivir a todos. Pero gracias a Dios que ha provisto estos medios de la tecnología para poder mantenernos en comunicación. Recientemente, este sábado, el cuerpo de ancianos de nuestra iglesia estuvo reunido analizando la posibilidad de reapertura o de reabrir nuestro templo para las reuniones normales. Y pues, como ustedes pudieron percibir o estar entendiendo lo que el hermano Mick estaba explicándonos acerca de cómo nuestro condado de Gwinnett, dentro del estado de Georgia, es de los que tiene una mayor incidencia de infectados o contagiados del COVID-19. Así que creo que la administración de nuestra iglesia, que forma parte del cuerpo de ancianos y el staff pastoral, estamos actuando con prudencia en bienestar de nuestra feligresía, de tal manera que durante el resto del mes de junio y julio, pues continuaremos en nuestras actividades como hasta ahora lo hemos estado haciendo durante esta pandemia, cuidándonos para que cuando llegue el momento de la reapertura, entonces estemos como debe ser, sanos, para que vayamos al templo a adorar juntos, en un proceso, claro está, que no va a ser, como decimos los hispanos, así a lo loco, sino que será un proceso que se estará trabajando escalonadamente para cuando llegue el momento de completarlo todo, pues se pueda realizar de la mejor manera.
Yes, thank you. But you know, at the same time, we recognize the fact that people want to get back together. We want to have, you know, something to fellowship with one another. And so we have put some thoughts together. And Pastor Amaro, if you could just share, what are some of the things that we've been talking about that we can do as a campus?
Hello, everyone. Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here with Mick, Pastor Andrews, and Pastor Enriquillo. And we are happy to use this opportunity to share with you where we are and what we have in mind to do for the next couple of months, July and August. Everybody know the situation that we are living. I don't know if it's right to say, but it looks like we have two pandemics. One is had to be with the disease, and the other one with the social issue, but and both at the same time, and that's a challenge. It's a challenge for us. But we have been having conversation with the elders, with our leaders. The last one, according to Mick report, the last meeting that we have, and we come with the idea, Pastor Andrews and members, that we want to have a special service in the first Sabbath of August, having like a prayer session. Doesn't mean that we can, based on the situation of the pandemic, especially in Gwinnett County, if the situation is more clear for us, maybe we can do it early. We can have early, including maybe have open to having a prayer meeting with a small group. Maybe right now we have our service live from the church. Maybe we can allow members to come to our services. But for now, based on the meeting with the elders, we have in mind to open not the buildings, at least the campus, to have a prayer session on the first Sabbath of August. That's going to be a special, very special day. I think everyone around the world have come together just to pray. I think this is the first thing that we have to do. And then we are working in put together a whole plan, because in order to reopen the church, it's too many guidelines that we need to put in place and have the right equipment to clean the church. Right now, just today, I spoke with Ivan, invite some special equipment to have it in the church, just as a sanitizer or disinfecting in our building. And then we are thinking about the church and the school. This is where we are right now.
Thank you so much, Pastor. And so that's what we're looking at. But as we know, things could continue going well. We're monitoring it week by week, month by month. And if things continue to improve, we might have an earlier prayer session. And if things get worse, we may have to delay it further. But ultimately, the safety of our church members, all of us, is what we are looking at right now. And we're praying earnestly about this. We're monitoring it very much. And so in the midst of this, though, we had on Friday a special forum where the church talked, which was such a blessing. And out of that, there were a couple of big takeaways for me. The first one was the power of dialogue. I heard so many different people share with me how they had no idea that this person they'd been talking with or sitting next to for years in church, they had so much in common. They had so many different ways that they thought about things, that they were going through similar things. And the power of us being able to connect and dialogue together about what is happening in our lives just really came out strong. And so as we consider what are we going to be doing in this pandemic and what are ways we can be ministering, I think a move we need to go forward with is in the direction of small groups. It's something that I have worked with for the past 6 years. It's something that has been a very strong passion of mine. And so I am going to be putting together small group trainings for those who may be a little bit intimidated. I don't know how I would do a small group. What's the difference between a small group and a Bible study? And so we're going to be putting together some different trainings so that way you can start meeting together in one another's homes and have a very wonderful, blessed experiencing, dialoguing together, not only about what the Lord is doing in your life, but also what is going on in the relationships you have around you. And so that's one thing that we have coming down. And the second thing, the second big takeaway that I got from Friday was the fact that our church has a lot of wonderful ideas for what we can do in the fight against racial injustice and the human rights issue that we have in front of us. And so obviously in the midst of this pandemic, since our campus is going to be closed, that presents some challenges. But even though there are challenges, there are still ways that we as a church can continue with our mission and fight for the lives of those around us. And so Elder Mick, though, if you could just share a little bit about why it's so important that we make sure we know the message that we're sending.
So there are a lot of groups that are meeting to protest, and we want to make it clear first that we want you to follow your conscience. You know, if the Lord is asking you, if you feel like you need to do something, then by all means do that. We just pray that that you're following what the Holy Spirit is leading you to do, and not being reflexive or anything that Jesus wouldn't be pleased with. I was talking to a group that was going out, and I was under the impression that we were going to be a group of Adventist churches meeting and marching. But after listening to the conversations, it turned out that there were several other groups that were going to be part of the group. And after I heard that, I sort of backed away and decided that I didn't really want to be a part of that. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen, because everybody should do what they feel like they need to. But I think that I'd feel more comfortable if we were able to control the language and exactly what we were doing and where we were going. So that's my experience. And Pastor, you had an experience yourself.
Yeah, and I'll share with that. Last week, I went with a movement. I went to a rally and a protest, and I marched, and it was coming from a church, and so I felt pretty comfortable in that it was coming from a church, that it would be something good, and it was, and not to take away at all from the experience, but there were some signs with some expletive language on it, and some different things that were happening there, different comments that were made, that I would not be comfortable if we had our own rally and those things were present. It's not something that I feel we could support as a church. While at the same time, there were many messages that were being sent from young people that were extremely inspirational, that were extremely godly, biblical. And this was an incredible opportunity. I was inspired by their courage, by their tenacity, and by the difference they want to make, not only in the civil life, but also in the spiritual life, in their churches. And so for me, that was a powerful, amazing, and relevant good thing. And as you mentioned, Mick, we want to make sure that we are allowing people to follow their convictions. There are some right now that do not feel convicted that they want to be involved at this time, especially during a pandemic. They'll help from the sidelines, and that's wonderful. if that is where your conviction are, let nobody put you down for what God is calling you to do. But if you are feeling the call and God is putting in your heart that you want to stand up for the rights of his creations, for the men and women made in his image, then we are going to be putting together, we're right now in the phase of putting together how we as a church can send a message, a united message about God's love and about how he cares about the justice of his people, because it's not a message that's inconsistent with Scripture. And so we're in the phase right now of making sure that we do this in a way that is right, and that's why it's going to take a little time, but we are in the process of strategically planning how an event like that would look like. Obviously, it's something that would be involving prayer, would be involving biblical messages, but it's a struggle as we think about how, because we won't be able to do it on our campus right now, given the fact of what we've already said earlier. But we wanted to let all of you know that we are talking about it. We are game planning how that will look like. And when we have more concrete things to share, we are all going to share that with you. But we wanted to let you know at this time, these things. Thank you, pastors. Thank you, Elder Mick, for coming. So we can share with our church where we're at with the pandemic, where we're at with our forum, what we're doing about it. And I just want to remind, and actually before I do that, Pastor Enriquillo, if you could also share a little bit about the things that we've talked about with the Hispanic members that we have.
Sure, thank you. La gran mayoría de ustedes, hermanos del Ministerio Hispano, entienden el inglés, pero para bienestar de aquellos que no entienden mucho, quiero compartir una buena noticia con todos ustedes y uno o dos puntitos más. La buena noticia es que a pesar de, como ya dijimos, que durante junio y julio estaremos todavía ausente de la congregación, del santuario, del templo, pero sí, el primer sábado de agosto, anoten esa fecha, que aunque lo vemos lejos, llegará rápido. El primer sábado de agosto estaremos reuniéndonos en nuestra iglesia de Duluth, pero será un servicio especial de oración. Creo que es la mejor actividad que como cristianos podemos realizar en un encuentro o en un reencuentro como este tan esperado. Sin embargo, lo haremos fuera de los edificios, distribuidos en todo el campus, en diferentes grupos, en diferentes sectores de la propiedad. Así que allí estaremos reunidos para que juntos oremos. Y en ese mismo orden de los grupos pequeños, la iglesia, toda la iglesia, incluyendo el Ministerio Hispano, estamos interesados en retomar el trabajo con los grupos pequeños, reorientados en el estudio de la Biblia, como debe ser, sobre todas las cosas, también en el compañerismo y en el compartir de los miembros de la iglesia, que los mantenga unidos, asimismo orientado de una forma muy especial en el evangelismo y en general en el fortalecimiento de la iglesia. Y por último, como pudieron escuchar, se estará formando un ministerio especial para aquellos que estén convencidos y que deseen trabajar con el tema de la justicia racial. Obviamente será un ministerio que estará cimentado bajo los principios de nuestra misión y los lineamientos de nuestra iglesia.
Thank you so much. We love you. We're here for you. And we are going to be continually working diligently to make sure that we are following step in step with God and hand in hand with him as we move forward during these times. God bless you all.